Hey guys, welcome to my Last of Us 2 review, spoiler free of course. So to get straight into it, spoilers for Last of Us 1. At the end of Last of Us 1, you rescue Ellie from the doctors and you head down to Jacksonville in Wyoming, where you set up camp with the rest of the people down there. That includes Tommy, Joel's brother, and that's sort of the end of the game really, and Last of Us 2 carries that on 5 years later. So in Last of Us 2, you play as Ellie. Ellie is now 19 years old, and she obviously does a lot more on her own. Joel's there to sort of be their father figure, should we say, and he sort of just guides her, teaches her more life skills that she'll need to be able to survive on her own. And yeah, you play as Ellie. You're out, the story's all about you're out to go get revenge of all the people who have sort of wronged you in your life and that. So you come across different factions, you come across a few more different types of infected, as well as like the infected from the last game. So you sort of different environments you get to experience this time around. So you have like woodlands, jungles, you have the city in Seattle, but the maps, the sort of like the areas are more sized. So if you played Uncharted 4, you'd sort of get the areas are less linear, so there's more places you can go and explore. There's shops you can go into, so you can just like smash windows, go into shops, loot them. There's more ways to get around, so you have like a horse to get around at the start. There's obviously a boat you can get later on in the game where you can sort of explore some of the waterways. And yeah, there's just a lot more freedom really in this game than we didn't have in the last game. So playing as Ellie is sort of like a different gameplay style than playing with Joel. So when you're using Ellie, she's a lot more versatile, and obviously she's smaller. So the game sort of just gives you them new gameplay mechanics that you get to use this time round. So you can slip through cracks a lot easier. She's quicker. She can jump further. So you get like ropes you can use. You can swing off ropes to get to other places and other ledges. She can lie down, so you can actually prone in this game. So rather than just crouching, you can prone. So like the grass behind, you can literally lay right down in that. But the cool thing is with the enemies that, so it's not like other games really. So if you're laying in the grass and they're coming towards you, they will recognise you. So it's good for like a distance sort of thing. So yeah, the enemies obviously can spot you and they can obviously attack you. There's obviously dogs in the game as well, so they can sort of like sniff your scent. So obviously if you use the R1 button, we can obviously reveal what enemies are, and that you can see the trace of where the dogs are, and they'll follow that route and try to find you. The enemies in this game they're a lot more, they sort of don't follow the sort of path that you'd expect, like in Last of Us 1 where they sort of follow their little patrols. They're a lot more of a group, so you might be in a building looting around, all of a sudden this patrol comes out of nowhere, and obviously you sort of got to work your way around them. They sort of call each other's names out, and they'll say, oh, so-and-so's dead, and they'll go search that area, so it sort of takes them off their patrol, and they'll look around that area and stuff. They're a lot more clever than what they were in the Last of Us 1, which is nice. Playing as Ellie, I find it a lot more enjoyable really. You can sort of create different types of gameplay, and yeah, she's just a lot more fun to play around with. Within The Last of Us 2, there is a more advanced skill tree. So it's like the similar one in Last of Us 1, you collect pills and then you can upgrade your skills according to what you wanted. But there's obviously a select few you could get. In Last of Us 2, you collect training manuals. So like in Last of Us 1, there was training manuals that give you a perk sort of like straight off the bat when you picked it up. So it could be like increased crafting or something. In The Last of Us 2, when you pick up them training manuals, it gives you a new skill tree or 4 skills to unlock. So the skills can range from when you're prone, you crawl quicker. When you hold R1 to reveal enemies, you can reveal them further away from you. They're all great perks that sort of just make life easier really, as you're sort of getting further into the game. And yeah, it's a great addition really. It's just improving a system that was already in place. I enjoyed choosing what skills to use and just improving the overall experience of the game. Moving on from that, you also have the new crafting benches that are just so much more detail put into them now. So when you go over to a crafting bench, you flick on the light, and obviously you get at the top, you get all your weapons, and you get about 3 or 4 different variety of sort of like attachments, upgrades should we call them, that you can put onto the weapon. And rather just, so you usually you collect crafting materials, which is like parts, same as Last of Us 1. And then rather just like getting the new upgrade on your weapon, you actually see Ellie sort of like add a part to the weapon, or sort of clean the weapon to improve it. Just the detail in the game is just insane compared to Last of Us 1. And it obviously just makes the experience a whole lot more realistic. And it's obviously just a nice addition, being in 2012 or 2020, to see the actual detail on your gun when you've actually made a change to it. And that's not to forget that on the fly crafting, which has been enhanced now. So rather than just crafting the basics, you can obviously craft your med kits and your smoke bombs and your stun bombs and stuff. You can create silencers now. So silencers that slip onto your pistol. They obviously break after you've used them for a few shots. You can craft those. You can improve most melee weapons now, so you can improve them to be stronger. You can improve them to last longer. You can craft arrows. So in Last of Us 1 you had to find the arrows, but now you can craft the arrows, which is great. And you can also craft explosive arrows that obviously do a bit more of a blast radius, which is to get a couple of enemies at once. So yeah, that's just a great feature. And then obviously with the skill tree, you can obviously be able to get perks to craft things even quicker in combat. So yeah, just overall a better experience to the game with these features added. Moving on to the technical side of the game, just the overall visuals and detail is insane. Sort of what you come to expect with a PlayStation exclusive, especially from Naughty Dog. However, there were a few areas, mostly in the sort of dark areas, where the game, for me personally, it just went slightly framey, and you'd sort of get double vision with certain objects when rotating the camera. Also, I don't think everyone's actually experienced that. I am playing on PlayStation 4 Pro, so maybe that's just for certain people, and certain people it's fine with. I'm sure they'll bring out a hot fix for that. So yeah, it doesn't ruin the experience at all, but it can sort of just make your eyes hurt a bit, really, especially with the double vision and that. But yeah, there's also a film grain. So if you've heard of film grain, it's like, say if you're looking at a screen, it might just slight sort of blur to it, even though within the game, obviously with just the environment, just all sort of more like dusty and that, it's not that noticeable. But if you're playing on like an OLED screen where you have like rich blacks, in the darker areas it is slightly noticeable, and it's not a feature you can turn off. I believe it's a feature they've probably added just because the enhanced detail in the game. It's just to help the game run, really. I believe without the film grain it would probably become a bit more framey in the lesser dark areas. But yeah, it's not going to take away the experience from the game. When it has got that PS5 update on the PlayStation 5, it'll probably not have the film grain, so I just don't think it will need it. Obviously, unless they've included it just to give you that aesthetic feel to the game. Maybe they'll add a feature where you can just turn it down. I do recommend turning motion blur to 0. It is obviously set on 10 from the default setting. Yeah, just turn that off. You don't really need that. And yeah, really, that's sort of all the technical side of the game that I found. My overall impressions of the game is great. It's a Naughty Dog game you come to expect now. Obviously, the last sort of Naughty Dog game was Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, which built upon Uncharted 4. So you sort of get that rich character build that you come to expect. You really sort of get feelings for the characters. You really get a sense of how life is living in Jackson, and obviously moving to Seattle and sort of the dangers around. Yeah, obviously in the cutscenes they actually are acted and then obviously processed into the game with the characters, and obviously the actors have just done a fantastic job. There's obviously no real complaints for the game. I've enjoyed all of the game I've played so far. The combat is just a lot more refined, fresh feeling. And they've just done a great job of just making you feel like you're actually in the game and experiencing it, with that certain areas feel more scary, so you feel like you're playing a horror game, which in real life, if you were there, it would be like petrifying. You get them sort of wow factors you had in Last of Us 1, so when you saw the giraffes towards the end, it was like, whoa, that's like really cool. And then you get that sort of moments in Last of Us 2, which I won't say what, but you get more of them. And obviously the sort of things in real life that you sort of just come across, but you don't really always take note to them. And obviously when you're playing a game where you have to survive, you don't really get to go out on days out and that, and you get to really appreciate what's on the planet really in them sort of times. And especially if everything's overgrown now, so everything just has that better look to it and that more natural, like it's in this natural environment. So it's quite hard to say a lot really without revealing any spoilers for the game. Obviously the game is 25 to 30 hours, and that's the longest we've ever had for a Naughty Dog game, which is great. And they just do, it might sound a long time, but they just do such a great job of pacing the game out. So it's not all combat, you get them sort of resting areas, should we say. There's so many different things you can interact with, so you can sort of do that for like 10-15 minutes. It just gives you a breather from the combat. And then you sort of go to certain areas and it's not all combat, so you'd obviously expect from most games, oh, this is going to be like a fight area because it's so big, there's different things you can take cover behind, and that's not the case, which is great. Another feature quite enjoyed is where you just get unexpectedly attacked upon. So when I was like at a crafting station, I was just about to craft the weapon, and all of a sudden someone's behind trying to choke me. It was a bit of a jump scare really, and it was just a great addition. Just kept the game flowing, more realistic, including the cutscenes within the gameplay, so it doesn't keep taking you in and taking you out of the cutscene. It just felt natural. And overall, I'd give the game, personally, I'd give it a 9 out of 10. Missing that 10 out of 10 is just, for me personally, was just the performance side of it. Fair play if the PS4 Pro just can't run the game simply because it's that detailed. But story-wise, 10 out of 10. Gameplay-wise, 10 out of 10. Yeah, it's just apart from the technical side, which was just quite annoying. But apart from that, I definitely recommend giving it a go. If you haven't got a PlayStation, you can pick up the Last of Us 2 Special Edition on PS4 Pro, which is about £350 if you're in the UK. That obviously comes with the game, the Special Edition of the console, the special controller, which I picked up as well. And yeah, there's a great opportunity to give that game a go. And then obviously it's other PlayStation games you can give a run through. I'd recommend playing Last of Us 1 before Last of Us Part 2 if you haven't played Last of Us 1. Because obviously the story does carry on, and there'll be things in Last of Us Part 2 that are like mentioned from the Last of Us 1, and you might not have an idea of what that is. If you can't afford Last of Us Part 1 as well, maybe just check out a playthrough on YouTube or something and just get a rough idea of what's happening in the world. Anyway, that's Last of Us Part 2 review, spoiler free. I hope you enjoyed. Hope you could take some good detail from this video, and it will obviously help recommend you the game. And anyway, have a nice day. See you soon.